In just 2 days, the country will commemorate the emancipation of enslaved African Americans. Here with more on a special public display is featured and celebrated Sweetgrass basket weaver and historian Corey Alston and Catherine Woods, Director of Communications for the Charleston Place, where you're doing a very special Juneteenth celebration. I want to thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So when we're talking about Juneteenth here in South Carolina, Corey, maybe you can explain a little bit more about just culturally what that means to African Americans.
It's huge. It's because it's a day of independence. As we know, as our country became independent on the 4th of July, enslaved Africans were still enslaved on the 4th of July. That time, 200 years ago, June 19th, 1865 was when the enslaved started to become freed people, starting in Texas. And that trickling effect moved over to the coast, different states, different towns and communities. And so it's a way of us celebrating amongst Afro-Americans on our time of being freed people. It's big. It's something that really hasn't been talked about. You're hearing about it more now.
It became a federal holiday last year. And so even this year it'll be observed on the 20th, but we're going to celebrate it on the 19th. But Charleston Place has allowed this celebration to be visible for a whole month. And so, and for a lot of people who walk through the Charleston Place, it's not just for locals here, but you get so many visitors from all over the world visiting. So have you heard any rumblings, Catherine, of, oh, well, what is this? Because tell us a little bit more about what you have on display in the lobby at the Charleston Place.
Absolutely. Like Corey said, it was important to the hotel that we honor Juneteenth not only on that day, but throughout the month. And so we worked with Corey, who was really a visionary, to help us bring this idea to life of a Gullah Village in our lobby. So when you walk into the hotel, you'll find blue bottle trees at the entrances, which were based on historical traditions of, capturing evil spirits. As you meander through the hallways, there's crab nets and we have a boat in the hotel. There's fishing nets, which are representative of how important the waterways are here culturally. And then obviously, in our grand lobby is our big feature, which I'm sure Corey will tell you a bit about. We have a stand where a lot of his family heirlooms are on display. Just incredible artistry, these beautiful baskets. And so it's been really special for us to celebrate that, not only locally, but with our visitors, as you mentioned.
How many generations now, Sweetgrass basket weavers in your family?
So in the family, it'll be 6.
6.
I have 2 daughters. I have a 15 and a 20-year-old. They're the next up and coming artisan. Both of them know how to do it, learning at the age of 7 and 8. Now they're 15 and 20. And so it's a big part of Gullah heritage to keep this alive generationally.
Absolutely.
From parent to child.
You and I had this conversation like 4 or 5 years ago, and we were talking about how it is an art that is somewhat dying because the young people don't really want to do it. And there's so many other things in this world now, distractions, I will say. Holding on to those traditions become harder and harder. So how did you manage to do that with your family?
I always like to word it amongst other artisans, and they have children as well. You have the idea of new parenting and old parenting. Old parenting is, you do what the parents say, you do what the grandparents say, and that's life. New parenting is we do what the children say, and so that kind of becomes a conflict.
As a bit of a problem.
As we're listening to the children and the attitudes of I don't want to do it, I feel like doing something else.
And getting into it.
Right, and then also with the culture, learning the skill set at a younger age is less pushback. So that 6, 7, 8-year-old is less pushback than a 15 and a 20-year-old.
Sure.
So learning the skill at a younger age is really what helps keeps it alive. We're not requiring that youth to run businesses or become full-time weavers, but we do want them to understand the skill, the heritage, the lifestyle of living that way of their ancestry.
Well, they tell a story, right? Every basket tells a story.
Yeah.
And you're keeping that story alive for generations, because every basket that is kept in a home will be there for generations to come.
Correct.
And so just like your history of South Carolina and the Sea Islands and everything that the Gullah Geechee experience represents,
you're just keeping that flame burning.
Correct.
For years to come.
Yeah.
And so for people who are coming to the hotel, they can come and see the display, but they can also see you at the Charleston Market on a pretty regular basis.
Yes, that's my home away from home.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
You're right there at the opening of the market.
Correct, right there in the front.
That's right, there in the front. So you got to come and see Corey. You do
Yes.
beautiful, beautiful work.
Thank you
I want to
so
thank
much.
you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're back after this.